much gas is left in 5G? And where will the road to 6G head? Where does quantum fiction meet fact? And will we actually hear anything new about AI? Let's talk about what's coming at MWC Barcelona. I'm Diana Gooverts, and this is the 5-9. It's that time of year again. We are heading to Mobile World Congress in Spain. So, what I've done is I've gathered together Fierce's attending team to talk about what we expect to see and hear at the Fiera Gran Via. That means I have Monica Alavin and Dan Jones from Fierce's wireless team, as well as our trusty chief, Liz Coyne, on the line. We are all in the house together, and we are going to give you the rundown for what we expect. So, guys, great to have you back. Liz, why don't you kick us off? I think you had some very interesting predictions for MWC this year.
I do have an interesting prediction, and one of them is for a really big buzzword at the show. I think we're going to hear a lot about AI latency this year. Last week, I got not one, not two, but three different contributed opinion articles talking about AI latency. So that kind of made the bells in my head go ding, 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 buzzword coming for the show. So I do think there's going to be a lot of talk of it on the floor. So, what is AI latency? It is the time delay between an input being sent to an AI system and the system producing a usable response or output. So, being raised as a journalist in the late 90s telecom, my brain operates like as a switch and a router would. So I like to think of it as the speed of a voice packet zooming from one caller to another. I realize this is probably seriously showing my age and really oversimplifying it, but oh well, I'm a writer, a creative writer, and not an engineer. So I tend to think about things in easy terms so I can understand them better. So when it comes to AI latency, this matters for telcos, hyperscalers, and data center operators because the multitude of AI applications coming down the pike are going to require various levels of latency, just like a voice call did. And network operators need to be prepared to deliver on that latency, same as before. Some networks are inherently better at lower latency than others, fiber, for example, but the problem is that no one knows for sure what AI latency requirements will look like. It's still too early. If you want to get a good idea of the content people sent to us last week about AI latency, you could check out an opinion article from our friend Mike Dano over at Ookla, who wrote about it, as did Steve Saunders. He did an interview with the CEO of Cerebras last week. Plus, T-Mobile's, which Monica knows about, new real-time AI translation service has to need low latency to make its very interesting and innovative service work. So I'm calling buzzword on AI latency, and I think it's going to be a really big thing at the show. Probably for the rest of the year. I was guessing into the middle of the end of summer until something else takes over, but I think AI latency is going to be big.
We're going to have to make a bingo board and play bingo at the show. But it's really interesting you're talking about AI latency because I was chatting with our colleague, Mitch Wagner, who is chief analyst for cloud data center and AI at Fierce Network Research. And he was telling me, his thoughts about the show. It'll be interesting to watch where the discussion heads because what's happening now is, as has been predicted, training is kind of shifting to the background. And what's happening now is AI inference, which is where kind of the latency piece comes in, right? You want that real time response. And so it'll be interesting not just to hear about AI latency, but also where are they putting the things on the network and where does 5G advanced play into that? And, where do CPUs versus GPUs play into that? So I think that'll be a really interesting discussion, but I think you had another prediction too that you wanted to share.
Yep, I did another one from Masha Baranova here on the team. She's been writing a lot about quantum. And I don't think we're going to hear a lot about quantum at the show per se, but I do think that it's going to be a topic for some of the folks I'm meeting with because um, the conversation about post quantum readiness is going to shift from theoretical to what telcos can actually do to mitigate their networks from quantum computer attacks. Many telcos, such as Orange Business, have already announced what they're doing to work with quantum technologies in some way, but the pressure is on for them to adopt post quantum cryptography.
It's really interesting that you bring up quantum because we actually recently had an episode about quantum and uh, a couple actually that have touched on quantum. Both, you'll remember our listeners and viewers from our previous episode. There's quantum computing and there's quantum networking, and the networking side of things is where the cryptography and that kind of security piece comes in. Um, and it's really interesting because the conversation around that is okay, well, if AI can suddenly break those cryptographic algorithms, then we need longer keys and we need better algorithms. And that whole conversation is evolving. And I think that's a really fascinating point that she brought that up. I would also say just one little fun fact. I remember several years ago. I can't remember if it was at MWC or CES, but just for the record, there was a really cool display. I think it was IBM had a some sort of crazy quantum computer on the show floor, which it was really cool. I took a picture of it. It kind of blew my mind.
There is a quantum computer at O'Hare now, O'Hare International Airport, right before you head down the C terminal. It's from IBM. It's not like in a glass case. It was pretty cool. I saw it a couple months ago when I was on the way to Broadband Nation. Um, the other thing that Masha mentioned, aside from post quantum security applications, she predicted that there will be lots of discussion around how quantum can be used for 6G, data center edge applications, and network sensing. So you know, I think Dan would be a great person to follow up with next because he's going to talk about 6G and network sensing as part of his prediction.
Well, the main thing I'm going to talk about first is Gigamimo, which also could be on the bingo card for a kind of catchphrase. But Gigamimo is a kind of AI enabled dense antenna arrays for kind of 5G advanced and 6G. ZTE is promoting it now, but all of the major vendors are expected to have something out around this. Probably they'll probably start talking it up around Mobile World Congress, but have something up for it this year, I would imagine. So that's one thing. Now that's outdoors because like GigaMimo is going to be like macro networks.
Dan, is GigaMimo the successor to Massive MIMO? It's been a while since I was in wireless, but I remember what was it? It was 64T, 64R was Massive MIMO.
Yeah. No, this is up to like 128T, 256T. So yeah, and now it's also kind of managed by AI, so that makes a difference as well. Um, now, but as well as GigaMimo, which is definitely going to be a very kind of big outdoor kind of solution. Um, Indoors, we're going to have sensing, which is kind of like networks that can sense kind of rain and temperature and stuff like that. So they're going to be, but it's not really clear how much range they're going to have yet, or how they'll be able to serve people beyond the kind of sensing aspect. But yeah, that's definitely one aspect that's going to get talked up at MWC, even if it won't actually arrive until well into the 6G era. So there we go.
That's really interesting because it reminds me of the early days of IoT when they were talking about how IoT devices in farm fields could, track the amount of rain and track where the cows were. So, I mean, I guess if we can do that with all the network gear, then that'll be an interesting conversation to see what that does to IoT ambitions, if anything.
They kind of shrunk the IoT down a bit as well. So
I had a feeling it was heading that direction. But Monica, we would be remiss if we didn't get your predictions because you lead our wireless coverage at Fierce Network. So I imagine you have the deepest insights here.
Well, I don't know about that, but I do have some thoughts.
Oh, come
Um,
on, let me talk you up for a minute.
sure. Yeah. So, well, Liz covered a lot of stuff, but I just think like it's kind of crazy. Like AI is like everywhere, baby. It's like that's the show. And so, but one of the things about AI, I guess I think anticipating to hear more about is physical AI and how it relates to. I guess that's sort of, well, you probably know more about this than I do, Diana. But I'm thinking of like robots, drones, mechanical things, like the physical stuff out there, right? And I'm interested in learning more about that. I think we'll see a lot of that at the show. And one of our contributing authors, Joe Madden, he wrote a piece for us about what he's expecting at the show, and he sort of teased something about LTE powered lawnmowers, so um, that use AI to mow the lawn, much like a Roomba does the carpet in your house, you know. So I mean, it'd be fun to see something like that. I don't know if they could actually show that in real time, really happening at the show. That'd be interesting. And then, of course, there's all this stuff about satellites and space. And our colleague Linda, I was talking to her recently. She was mentioning how, well, the president of SpaceX. I'm trying to look for her name right now. Hold on. Yeah, Gwen Shotwell. Yes. Okay. She's going to be giving on a panel. I think it's the first day of the show, which I think will be super interesting, and maybe it'll drum up a lot of talk in the halls of the event about really where is everything going with the mobile carriers. I'm probably thinking of the U.S. Essentially, but how all this is going to play out with SpaceX increasingly getting into the mobile space. So that'll make it much more interesting, I think.
I don't think there's a show that you can go to where AI isn't playing a central role, for better or worse. I mean, but in the context of mobile, I mean, cloud data center and AI is my beat. So that's what I do. But looking at it from a mobile perspective, I'll be watching kind of to see where the relationship between the hyperscale cloud companies, who will all be there, by the way, I'm meeting with them, and telcos is evolving in the AI era, right? Because we all remember a couple years ago, all of the hyperscale companies were trying to convince telcos, come to the cloud, come to the cloud. And now telcos are kind of in this position as AI moves from training to inference, which is more distributed. They're in this position where they're going, oh, wait, do we have the beachfront property? We have all these COs. We have the networks that kind of stretch out the last mile. So I think that'll be really interesting to see how that evolves, especially now. Remember, late last year, there was that whole tie up between Nokia and NVIDIA, which, Monica, that kind of goes back to the AI RAN piece. Um, and I had a very interesting chat with someone recently about what happens if operators, because they're now looking at getting infrastructure that can be used for both AI and the RAN. Whether or not that'll actually be something they'll implement is a different question. But if they have infrastructure that can do both across, like, does that cut hyperscalers out of the picture? Does that cut, certain vendors out of the picture? I'm so curious. But it'll be really interesting to see where these companies kind of strike the balance. And there are so many variables happening right now. Monica, do you think we'll hear more about AI RAN? That was a big thing, what, 3 years ago?
Oh yeah, we'll definitely hear more about AI RAN. Maybe see some actual use cases. I mean, you remember a couple of years ago they launched the AI RAN Alliance at Mobile World Congress, and I think last year they had up to 100 members, so they grew pretty fast. So it's definitely a thing, and I expect to hear more about that progress there. Also, really, like you've written about too, Diana, the role of NVIDIA in the telecom space. It's a big deal. So it'll be very interesting to see the dynamics of how that works out at the show and
Yeah,
after.
and I'm very curious. I don't know because I don't have the speaker or attendee list in front of me, but I wonder if AMD is going to be there from a chip perspective. Will they try to get in on this market? Because didn't Qualcomm several years back finally got into the base station game? Didn't they? Did I make that up? Yeah. Okay.
But also, yeah, I'm not sure how much the chips we're going to see at the show. I mean,
Yeah.
besides NVIDIA, but
Jumping in here, I just in that opinion piece that we got from Joe Madden, he said he is hearing very little from the chip companies at ahead of the show this year. So he thinks it's going to be pretty quiet because they're focusing elsewhere. The one thing that he did predict was going to be big was space, which Monica, you kind of hit the nail on the head with satellite there. He also said, I think it was Open RAN, like this could be the year that there's going to be an announcement that Open RAN is like no longer going to be an issue.
Liz, you actually beat me to raising the open question, because one of the things I heard in my conversation was that it's not Open RAN, but open models and open on the AI side, right? Like the openness there is becoming important. And I said to the person I was talking to, I was like, I mean, given what happened with Open RAN, do we really think they'll be able to move ahead with an open ecosystem on the model side? I don't know. Like, Dan, Monica, do you have thoughts? Liz, I know you kind of raised this. I don't know if there's, where is Open RAN heading at MWC? Will it even be there?
Oh, I think for sure it'll be there. Yeah. And I think we'll hear about more deployments from operators, probably maybe in Europe.
The main thing we won't hear about is multi-vendor Open RAN deployments, because that pretty much is dead.
Right, but then doesn't that defeat the purpose of Open RAN?
Indeed, it completely defeats the purpose. I don't even know why you'd call it Open RAN anymore, but there we go.
Then it's just RAN. We're back
Yeah.
to the same model that
Yeah.
we were trying to get away
But it
from.
leaves open the possibility. Like it's a tough haul to like invent your own new radio unit if you're a small company. So, but better to be open than what was before, even though it didn't achieve what it really set out to do. Yeah,
Monica, glass half full. I love it.
exactly. Yes.
All right. Last question to round out our discussion. What tapas dish are you most excited to have? And if you can't say jamon, you can't say jamon. No, 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 no. It was too easy, Liz. I caught you. Okay, my one that I'm most excited to have is pimientos de padron. They are fried little green peppers. They're so good.
I love pan con tomata, the bread with the tomatoes smeared on top, which I've tried so many times to recreate at home and it just doesn't taste the same.
I have the same as Liz. I'm going to copy her because I have tried to do that too.
I'm going to say patatas bravos then, because
Oh, yes, that's
yes.
a good one.
But Dan and I also had the best ever tortilla españolas. The one time at that little tiny restaurant, and it was like a family restaurant. Oh my gosh, I have never had such a really good tortilla española. And I will say, a pro tortilla española tip: if you get home and you have a hankering for tortilla españolas, you can actually find them at Trader Joe's in the freezer section now.
Oh, and really? Okay.
Already pre-made, you put it in the microwave for 10 minutes. It's like you're being back in Barcelona.
Well, the good part is we will be actually in Barcelona, and you have our recommendations for the best tapas to try while you're there at MWC with us. We hope we see you on the show floor, but to all of our listeners and viewers, wherever you are listening or watching, make sure you like and subscribe, and we will have more after the show with our top takeaways. So we will see you then.